you wonder what I see in your future? Possibility.
The 2016 film Doctor Strange was the 14th in the Marvel Universe series. Like many of the Marvel movies, the VFX was stunning. From soul jumping, transformation of environments, animating life into his cloak and the vortex he uses to travel, which is what I'll be breaking down here.
Teach me.
Framestore, the VFX company, show a breakdown of their work, from the on-set filming, compositing the 3D world they created, and back into live action scenes. However, the vortex scene was made slightly differently, filmed 3 times in 2 different locations. A shot of the room he's entering, a shot of the room he's leaving, and a shot of the room he's left, minus Doctor Strange. They were then edited together with the VFX stitched on top. For example, in this shot, Rachel McAdams' character Christine Palmer is filmed on her own in the room. She's facing the empty space as if the vortex has just closed. The room is then set up with a ring light that visually represents the vortex. It also emits a yellow-orange colour to highlight how the light would bounce off items in the room and the actors. In the VFX world, these are used as visual clues, helping to create a realistic scene using the natural light in the setup of the shot, like here, here, and here. Green screen is placed behind this ring, covering the area where the vortex will be created in post-production, including the room Doctor Strange enters. He's then filmed on a different set, entering the room as if from the vortex. A shot of the room with no one in it, this is referred to as a clean plate, is also taken for use in post-production. These elements are then stitched together using software such as After Effects, using the Trapcode Pugin. All we need to start is this clean plate and Trapcode Particular. Open After Effects and take the clean plate image and create a new comp. At the same time, create a new comp and rename it to Particle VFX. Make it HD and 25 frames per second, 30 seconds, and click OK. Go back to Image and change comp name to Main Comp and make it 10 seconds by right-clicking and selecting Trim Comp to Work Area. Let's go back to the Particles comp and create a new solid. Name it Particles and make sure it's HD and coloured white. Create a mask in the solid layer by selecting the Ellipse tool. Click on Hold in the centre of the completion window, and while holding Shift, move out to make a perfect circle at the size you want. I'm going to hold space and move the circle up. Go to Effects, Trapcode, Particle. Open Particle in the layers, then Emitter. Here we'll see the Y and X positions. We'll then open the mask, go to the mask path and copy it, then paste it in Emitter XY. Now you can see your emitter is following the path of the mask, but it stops from where it started. We can fix that by holding Alt and clicking on the stopwatch and adding Loop Out, brackets, expression. This will loop over and over again, which is what we need. It's getting there, but we need to speed this up. Highlight all the keyframes and click Alt and drag the keyframes in together. This is speeding up the particles. If we then go to the emitter and increase the amount of particles, we can see we're getting a rough angle. To smooth this out, change the position subframe from linear to 10 times linear, and you can see the instant change. It's starting to look pretty good. Let's go back to the emitter setting and change. Particles to 5000. We'll go for a box emitter type. Direction can be directional. Velocity will change to -250. the randomness to 100, distribution can be 0, velocity for motion will change to 0, emitter will change the X and Y to 20 and the Z to 100. Open particle and change life to 1, the randomness to 35, sphere feather to 0, and the size will change to 7. We now have small particles. The smaller the particles, the more details you'll have. Go back to settings and change random to 100. We can instantly see more details. Change opacity random to 100. Go to this physics tab and we'll change the physics model to bounce and the gravity to 50. Open the bounce tab and here we can give it a floor layer for the particle to bounce off. To do this, we'll go back to the layers and drop in the clean plate. From this, we'll right-click and change this into a guide layer. This is used as a reference layer, but will never render out in the final comp. We'll add a new solid layer and turn it into a 3D object. Click on the rotation tool and we'll rotate it on the X-axis. Hold Shift so it snaps flat. Then move it down using the selection tool to make it look like the floor. You can actually match it up with the floor really nicely. Once we have this, we'll turn it off. Open the Bounce tab, and here we can give it a floor layer for the particle to bounce off. We can now see the particles bouncing off the floor. It's so high, so we'll move it down by highlighting the position keyframe and moving the particles down. Just make sure you're on one of the keyframes when you do this. We can also delete the mask as we don't need it anymore. Now you can really see it work. Go back to the settings and the render tab, motion blur and turn it on, and you can see the difference with it on and off. We're going to go back to the Bounce tab and change the collision event to Stick, then duplicate the particles layer. On the new layer, we're going to change particles per second to 7,500. Change emitter to point type. Change velocity to -810. Click on the duplicate particles layer and type E twice quickly. This brings up our expression and we're going to change the wiggle 5 to 25. The life can be 0.3. Size will change to 1.4. And go down to bounce, collision event, and change to kill. We'll duplicate again and change particles per second to 15,000, life 0.6, and wiggle from 25 to 15. Duplicate it one last time and change particles per second to 2000, emitter type to box, direction spread to 5, velocity to 130, emitter X and Y to 150, emitter Z 100, and life to 0.8. Opacity life click on the last preset. This will make the particle stick to the floor and then vanish randomly. Collision event to bounce. Bounce 5, bounce random 50, slide 25, shuttle angle 700. It's starting to work well. We'll place the particles pre-comp into the main comp and go to Video Copilot, VFX Color Vibrant, although you can use any fill color effect, and add the orange color and change the setting to give it the same look as the film. We can add some glow and play with the setting and duplicate it for intensity. Here's with it on and off. Starting to work well. Add an adjustment layer and create a mask the same shape and size as the portal. We'll add exposure and turbulent displacement and change the exposure to 3 and keyframe the evolution from 0 to x214 to create a different environment. Then place it under the particles. The last object to add will be a solid layer using the eyedrop tool to have the same orange colour, and place this on the floor. Create a mask around the area that the glow would naturally bounce off and change its intensity using the opacity. This leaves us with a pretty impressive Doctor Strange portal. This simple shot made for a huge impact on screen. A skill that visual effects implements so effortlessly, making these shots not only iconic, but a part of the character's identity.
Really do have to go.